live stream I'm doing with my iPhone 11. iPhone 11. It was actually fairly cheap, so it's been a while since I've used the tripod. Obviously, forgive the box in the background, by the way. But we're just a little busy right now. So anyway, hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel and welcome to a live stream with breaking news. This actually just broke a few minutes ago. And it's kind of interesting because for a channel that rarely talks about politics, we're doing 2 political videos in a day. So, although I have to say the reception to the last one was actually pretty good because I think people understood where it was coming from. Hey Mark, how you doing? So anyway, while we wait for people to come in and all that jazz, I will of course explain the rules for those of you who might be watching in the future. Hi Thomas. This is, as mentioned before, a live stream, so if you see the video being an hour long, just keep in mind that we tend to do a Q&A afterwards, but the main topic is usually within the first 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, the mic is better. Actually, there's no mic. The iPhone 11 does not have a headphone jacket, so can't plug it in. But that's okay. We're going to have the old setup next week anyway, and I think people are starting to actually miss that setup. So anyway, if you are watching this in the future, and this is not live, just bear in mind the main topic will be the first 10 to 15 minutes, and then if you don't want to stick around, you don't have to. But in the meantime, let's talk about this article that has just broke, this news article, and it was broken by BuzzFeed. Now, I know some of you already want to click away because BuzzFeed tends to be a liberal-leaning website, and I agree. But you know what? They're also good journalists. Sure, like any biased news organization, they tend to lean in a certain direction. They might not talk about certain things because it doesn't fit their narrative. But I can't say most of the stuff that they write about is not exactly true. And they have done some good things like break the story on John Kricfalusi, the Ren and Stimpy creator, and his creepy past with underage girls. So BuzzFeed has done some good work, and they have Parler with an E. Oh, okay, thanks. I'll change it afterwards. They have decided, and the funny thing is, like, I have it right here. Hey, CPA hustles. That, you know, they broke an article story that I think is actually really interesting, and this is especially fascinating coming after the fact that President Donald Trump has been basically suspended from Facebook for the rest of his presidency term, and Twitter is more or less threatened to do the same if he keeps his actions up. Now, here's the thing. I do not deny, and I've never denied, that Facebook and Twitter have a bias. In my opinion, that's why they should not have the freedom of protection that they do. They do decide which opinions get shared more. They do tend to favor left-leaning opinions over right-leaning opinions. Their fact-checking is sometimes spotty. I mean, if they're going to start fact-checking things and they are officially a publisher at that point, but they claim they're not a publisher because kind of like how Uber doesn't want to pay benefits to drivers, Facebook doesn't want to give up certain First Amendment protections that comes with being just a news aggregator, not a publisher. And I know that there are those controversies, and I also believe that social media just makes the world a worse place. Well, here's the thing. One of the things about the divide, as people are calling it in America, is that, you know what, there really is a divide in opinions on, you know, how we feel and what we feel about things. But here's what makes things worse. I think social media plays a very big role in causing the divide because social media sends through their algorithm posts and friends that tend to agree with you a little bit more, and they tend to highlight it on your timeline. And, you know, so if you espouse more left-leaning opinions, you're going to see more posts that align with your viewpoints, and vice versa. If you have right opinions, you're going to get more posts and responses from people from your side. You do this long enough, and eventually someone will disagree with you, and they will disagree with you publicly because that's what happens on Facebook. But instead of taking it in stride, instead of saying, hey, you know what, there's just different people out there, the algorithm, because they've gotten us so used to thinking that the world all thinks one way, whether you're on the left or the right, you know, people get into arguments with these other people. And then they unfriend these people or they unfollow them. And Here's the thing. Even though I'm technically still on Facebook, I try not to use it that much anymore. But if I am on Facebook, I have this saying that I will not unfollow anyone based on their political opinion, because I would rather be in a room with 1,000 people who I disagree with than 100 people that I agree with. At the very least, my mind is stimulated if I'm with someone who I don't agree with. Unfortunately, it's also a lot of work to disagree with people, and I think that's why people generally prefer to, hang with people that think the same way that they do. Well, here's the thing. Competitors to Facebook and Twitter have started to pop up. With Twitter, the competitor was Minds. And for Facebook, their two main competitors are Gab and Parler. Now, we're not talking about Gab other than to say that if I were a political channel, oh boy, would the Gab CEO's emails he's been sending out recently be very interesting to discuss. I'll say that. But no, we're talking about Parler, because Parler seems to be the big site that conservatives, frustrated with their liberal friends, frustrated with a company that, seems to devalue their opinions, and frustrated just in general that they wake up every day to see that the candidate that they voted for, whether rightfully or wrongly, is being dumped on a daily basis. And and by the way, the comments also include, and whoever supports this person must be an evil. No, that does not help. And you know what things like that do? It means they no longer want to be on Facebook or Twitter. So what do? They go to an alternative. And Parler seems to be the alternative they have chosen. And Parler has said that, hey, free, we will allow you to say whatever you want. Which, two things about that. One, technically not true. It's already been proven that if you have liberal opinions on Parler, they are much more likely to remove those posts as fake news. So much for complete freedom of speech. But here's the other thing, and I actually discussed this in another video about Parler, and this is, at the moment, it's live, so you can't click this, but for the people in the future, there's a link right there, and you can go, and you can see, I've already commented on this, but here's the thing. I will reiterate, some opinions are illegal. There are crazies on the internet on both sides, and you give them a platform to say whatever they want. Sometimes that is not a good thing. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe you have the right to say whatever you want, and I will defend to the death your right to say it, unless you are talking about something very, very illegal, or you are inciting violence. And that's kind of what's been happening with Parler recently, because I'm sure all of you know, there's a lot of unrest in Washington, D.C. right now. And I discussed that at length and ad nauseum this morning. If you want my opinion on that, there's a video this morning, 30 minutes. Unfortunately, the audio is not the greatest. I'll grant you that. But I explain myself pretty clearly in that video, audio issues aside. And, there's a lot. So there's a lot of reasons why there's a lot of unrest going on, and as a result, if there's unrest in the real world, there's unrest on social media. Heck, there's usually unrest on social media even when there isn't that much unrest in the real world. And I know a lot of friends and acquaintances who have actually officially left Facebook because Facebook banned Donald Trump. And they've now moved to Parler. And they plan to make Parler their home. I actually have a Parler account, have basically never used it except to make this video. But here's the thing. As the unrest continues and as the emotions get high, I mean, they're talking about a second impeachment, and heck, we might even see the 25th Amendment invoked. Who knows? Anything can happen at this point. People on Parler are starting to post things that could easily, like any sane person would say that it incites violence. In fact, let me see if I can pull one up. The only bad thing about doing this live with a cell phone is that you can't show it at the same time, but for those of you who want to know, that's what it looks like. And from a Colonel T. Perez, he says, today, January 6, 2021, we patriots by the millions have arrived in Washington, D.C., carrying banners of support for the greatest president the world has ever known. That's fine, by the way. You want to protest, you want to carry your flags. I don't think you should do it. Not because I don't agree with your opinion, but because there's a pandemic going on. I don't think you should go out, but whatever. That's fine. Here's where it gets concerning. He continues, but if we must, many of us will return on January 19th, 2021, carrying our weapons in support of our nation's resolve, to which the world will never forget. One bad thing about not being able to see this is there's some spelling errors, which I think are funny, by the way. We will come in numbers that no standing army or police agency can match. However, the police are not our enemy unless they choose to be. Very strong words. All who will not stand with the American patriots, or who cannot stand with us, then what would be a good time for you to take a few vacation days? The American patriot. Yeah, no. That is a clear call for violence. That is a threat. And Parler has not done anything about posts like this. And by the way, there's dozens of these posts. I'm just picking one, but there's a lot of them. Well, anyway, Apple has given Parler an ultimatum. Clean up your act or we're going to ban you. Now, let's look at this article right here. And this was written by Ryan Mack and John Pakskowski, I believe is his name. And he writes, or they write, I should say, Apple has given Parler, the social network favored by conservatives and extremists. And by the way, that's unfortunate because I know there's a lot of people in Parler who are not extremists, but unfortunately extremists are on there and they get lumped together. And that's also not fair. I just want to make that note. An ultimatum to implement a full moderation plan of its platform within the next 24 hours or face expulsion from the App Store. In an email sent this morning and obtained by BuzzFeed News, Apple wrote to Parler's executives that there had been complaints that the service had been used to plan and coordinate the storming of the U.S. Capitol by President Donald Trump supporters on Wednesday. The insurrection left 5 people dead, including a police officer. And here's what Apple wrote to Parler. They wrote, we have received numerous complaints regarding objectionable content in your Parler service, accusations that the Parler app was used to plan, coordinate, and facilitate the illegal activities in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021 that led to, among other things, loss of life, numerous injuries, and the destruction of property. The app also appears to continue to be used to plan and facilitate yet further illegal and dangerous activities. And then they show like a screenshot of someone named WWG1WGA with American flags surrounding it, showing a picture of Nancy Pelosi's house. It's a TMZ article where the headline says, Nancy Pelosi's house vandalized with pig's head, fake blood, spray paint. And the person who's sharing this story, their comment is, I kid you not, they should have burned it down with her in it. Yeah, I said it. That's what the post says. So anyway, continuing the article, Apple said that to ensure there is no interruption of the availability of your app on the App Store, Parler is required to submit an update and a requested moderation improvement plan within 24 hours of the date of the message, which was sent on Friday morning. Apple said that if it did not receive an update from the company within the next time frame, the app would be removed from the App Store. An Apple spokesperson declined to comment. And then they show a conversation with, again, WWG1WGA. Apparently, this is the only guy on Parler who says things like, if you're in D.C., fight. Fight for we the people. Fight for your country. Fight for your freedom. Fight for your way of life. Do not give up. How do we take back our country? About 20 or so coordinated hits will turn everything around. That tree of liberty, like, see, that is clearly a call to violence. Now, Parler, of course, responded to this, and their response was not exactly great. Because their CEO, John Matz, said, we will not cave to pressure from anti-competitive actors. We will and always have enforced our rules against violence and illegal activity, but we won't cave to politically motivated companies and those authoritarians who hate free speech. Anyone who buys an Apple iPhone is apparently a user. See, that's a problem when you make generalizations because, well, anyway. Apparently, they know what is best for you by telling you which apps you may and may not use. Of course, this is a complete overreaction in my opinion. Apple did not say that we are going to remove your platform because we don't like you. Their thing was, hey, you know what? Your platform is being used for hate speech and coordination of violence, and we need a moderation plan. And that's the bottom line. Now, some people in there might be saying or thinking, well, I've heard the left say worse. You know, at this point, like I said in my other video, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I mean, when you say, well, the left has said worse, that almost sounds like more of an excuse and a justification for actually having violent words. In my opinion, from this point on, since we have now had a group of people actually act on something that someone said, and it just happened to be Donald Trump this time. Next time, it could be Nancy Pelosi. You never know. I don't think anyone, any elected public official, should be spewing this rhetoric, period. So, I think that's pretty much the end of the article. Well, the full letter is here, but you know, the letter's long and basically the main points were taken. So here's the thing. What is my thought on this? Do I think that this is an anti-competitive response from Apple? Do I think that they're just picking on Parler to get Parler off the platform? And my answer is no. And why do I feel that's not the case? Because Apple doesn't make a social media network. I mean, they used to have one, Ping. Anyone remember that? Ping? No one remember Ping? Yeah, because Ping sucked. That's why. It was their social media section on iTunes, and it sucked pretty hard. So that's what happened there. But no, I don't think this is an anti-competitive thing. Do I believe that there's some genuine concern right now? Yes. I believe it's for those same reasons that Facebook and Twitter, who, by the way, Twitter does not want to ban Donald Trump if they don't have to. Donald Trump made Twitter relevant again. They do not want him off the platform. Jack Dorsey is not interested in banning Trump. But hey, if he's calling people to violence and people are getting killed, or at least it's perceived that he's calling people to violence and people are getting killed, well, then Twitter might get sued or Facebook might get sued for allowing that speech on the platform. And thus, that's why they are taking the precautions that they are. And that's where Apple is, because you know what? Apple has a lot more money than Parler. And if someone decides to sue Parler and they're on the Apple Store, someone might, by extension, want to sue Apple for hosting. So Apple has given Parler a very reasonable request. It is reasonable request. Come up with a moderation plan within 24 hours and let us know what it's going to be. What are you going to do about this? Now, here's the interesting thing. The CEO has stated that they do monitor these messages and they do remove violent and illegal content when it's available, when it's up there. And you know what? I'm going to take their word for it and say that that's true for the time being, just for the sake of argument. Here's the thing. If that is true, and if they do have a system in place for catching this stuff, then you know what? The work's done. All they got to do is take that plan, maybe add a couple little extra measures that you can point out, like, here is our moderation plan. And as a result of the events on January 6, 2021, these are the additions we are going to make to the plan, and things should be fine at that point. They should be fine at that point. But it doesn't seem like the Parler CEO is very interested in doing something like that. So chances are Parler will not be on Apple. By the way, I also suspect that Google will do a very, very similar thing. The Google will probably take Parler off the Google store if they don't agree to it. Now, here's the thing. Because it's Android, you can just go to Parler on the web browser, and that might be one of the big problems. Well, that's a bigger problem, a bigger issue with, you know, Apple. They do have the right to overstep their bounds sometimes because they own the phone, they own the operating system, they own the store, they own the platform, and so nothing happens that on that phone that they don't control, and that can be a problem, especially since they control half of the cell phone market. So anyway, that is what is currently going on with Parler and Apple. And it's been 20 minutes. So the topic for those in the future is about to get wrapped up. So if you're watching this in the future, now's your time. I'd like to know what you think about this. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Now, for those of you who are watching this live with me, I see the messages coming in, and we are now going to start responding to those messages because, you know, I do want to give you guys some love and attention too. So, let's see here. We're going to first skip the hellos. Mark says, twerker needs to go, LOL, and I agree. Journey was Jordan. I haven't seen you in a while. He's like, hey, Kevin, hope you and your wife had a great Christmas. Well, we did have a great Christmas considering everything that's going on, but, you know, we did have one. Now, Thomas Scott News says, 100%, same here. Amen. My friend works there, and I never heard that. I heard that people that own it are lefty, and they love masks. Well, here's... I think that's kind of a I'm kind of sensing what you feel about the masks, but here's the thing. Left people don't love masks. It's just the doctors are telling you to wear the masks. I actually know a lot of right people who wear masks too because, you know, we want to stay healthy. I mean, I myself have lost a dozen people to this COVID-19. In fact, scary fact, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law and father-in-law have all got COVID this week. And father-in-law had a stroke a year and a half ago, so we're really praying for the best there. You know, because a stroke compromises your immune things like few other things do. And it just stunk that he got COVID. It stunk that they all got COVID, and now we can't even see them for the holidays or a while. So anyway, Mark says, give Kevin a thumbs up, everyone. Well, yeah, I would appreciate that if you did. Hey, Steven, how you doing? And Thomas says, I disagree. The pandemic is sketchy, untrue lies, suicide is a real problem. Search Carrie Mullis. I have no doubt that suicide is a big problem because of the lockdowns, but COVID is also a problem. Like I said, I have known a dozen people who have died from COVID. And look, here's the thing. I'm sorry, but it's kind of hard to look me in the eyes and say this is not true. And it's like, yeah, so what? All these people who were otherwise healthy just died one year? Just 2020 decided they just want up and die? So, you know, be safe out there. That's all I'm saying. So, let's see here. Mark says, I voted for Trump, but do not agree with what happened at the White House. We are better than that. Yeah. And here's the other thing. There are a lot of Trump supporters that I know who did vote for Trump, who Biden does genuinely scare them. But after the events of Wednesday, they were like, we wouldn't vote for Trump again. And here's the thing. I know that Trump did not specifically say attack the Capitol, but he said, you know, January 6th, be there. He did a rally. He encouraged people to take back, you know, democracy, that this was stolen. Well, some people started storming, and I'm sure it was just a few people. But then he was very, very slow to get on and tell everyone to go home. And even when he did, he made it about himself, talking about how the election was stolen from him. And you know what? Whether you agree with that or not, it's kind of like that's not the thing to say right now. Like when you're trying to de-escalate something, you don't bring up the thing that's riling people up in the first place. So, yeah, I don't agree with what happened. And granted, I didn't vote for Trump this time, but you know, I'm just like, nah, I couldn't do it anymore. So Thomas says, Apple sucks anyway. New companies will replace Crapple. Well, we'll see. They're $1 trillion company. So Jordan, I see you sent a $10 super chat. Thank you. I will get to I'll get to that in a second. I don't want to lose my place. Kevin says, thank God I have an Android. Yeah, I used to have an Android until a week ago. I might go back. Thomas says, I've heard the left say worse. This is ridiculous, dude. These do not sound like violence threat. It sounds mild compared to Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Dude, well, here, I'm going to say this. First of all, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if the left did say worse. Doesn't matter. I don't think violent rhetoric should be used at all. And here's the thing. I just read a couple of them. There were some worse ones, and I just don't want to get demonetized, which I probably will anyway. But you know what? The bottom line is, are Black Lives Matter and Antifa bad too? Yes. Absolutely. Well, there's members in Black Lives Matter that are not bad. But, it was, I mean, when people when there was like the George Floyd protests and the news said it's mostly peaceful, it's like, that really wasn't the case. I mean, the bottom line is, it's like, look, it's peaceful as long as no one's burning down buildings and shooting one another. Once that starts happening, once you start breaking into things, then it's not peaceful anymore. So, you know what? I don't think the fact that Antifa has done worse things makes this appropriate. It does not. Neither is appropriate, as far as I'm concerned. You want to protest, you want to say your piece, you want to do it in a peaceful way, go ahead. I will defend your right to do that. But you want to start breaking onto properties and breaking windows and burning houses and shooting people, you know what? I don't care if the other people did it worse. You shouldn't be doing that, period. So that's my feelings. Kevin says, I have a feeling Trump will still get his additional 4 years. A lot of dirty politics will be going to jail soon. Well, if he gets impeached a second time, or actually if the 25th Amendment is evoked, then I think that will bar him from holding public office again. So we'll have to see. Mark says, MySpace sucked too, LOL. Isn't that what the FBI is for? Well, here's the thing, Mark. I do agree that MySpace sucked, by the way. Yeah, the FBI, it is their job, but you know what? It's kind of one of those things. It's kind of like that thing where it's like, if you hear something, you are obligated to tell someone. So, like, if you were in the backyard of your house and your neighbor is in the back and he's drunk and he's talking loudly about how he's going to go 12 blocks down the road because he's mad at his girlfriend and he's got a weapon and he's going to shoot her with it, you know what? It might not be your responsibility to physically stop this person, but it is your responsibility to probably say something. And that's what Apple's trying to do right now. They are saying, hey, we are aware that this platform is being used to stir up bad feelings and to facilitate violence. So we're going to do what we can to stop that. You know, if they want to do that, they can do it on their own time. We don't want them doing it in our house. So that's what they're thinking. So Kevin Joseph says, I think Antifa went to the Capitol dressed up as Trump supporters. There's video proof and they take credit. Well, so far the FBI has denied that. That might change. Who knows? I do know that there was one guy who was at the George Floyd protests and here, but the full photo when he was at Black Lives Matter showed that he was against Antifa. So, right now there's just no proof that Antifa did anything. And as for they took credit for it, the thing about Antifa is that it's not a really well-organized group, so there's always an Antifa that takes credit for these things, and then there's an Antifa that doesn't take credit for these things. So which one is telling the truth and which one is lying? I guess it depends on what you feel about them in the first place. So Journey was Jordan said, peace and blessings to you and your family this year. Well, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. Mark says, my father lives in an assisted living home. He tested positive for COVID Tuesday along with 18 others. Yep, that's pretty bad. I am so sorry. I hope he survives. Jesus' name above all names says, Trump 2024. De-escalate by the Democrats. It was mostly peaceful protests, right? Well, as I've said before, the past is the past. I don't care what was said before. I don't care if what was said before was worse. Going forward, we need to not do this. So, the Riot King said, Parler feeds are not available. Okay. And Mark wrote and says, what do you think about MeWe? It's not even a a thought on my mind, to be honest. I don't know much about it other than it's another conservative social media platform. I refuse to say something for extremists and white supremacists, but unfortunately, some of these extremists do find their way on these platforms, and getting rid of them off them is slow, to be honest. So otherwise, I have no opinion of it. Kevin Joseph says, I'm surprised Pence hasn't evoked the 25th yet. Well, I think he wants to make sure he can actually do it first. Like, he's probably on the phone with the Republicans and the GOP, probably asking, can we do this? If I do this, will you have my backs? Because he doesn't want to stick his neck on the line for nothing. But I read a New York Times article about him, and make no mistake, Mike Pence is extremely upset right now. When President Obama left office, he gave his vice president, Joe Biden, the Medal of Freedom. This week, Trump has given the Medal of Freedom to a retired Navy guy, and 3 of the guys that he plays golf with. He has not given Pence any recognition for being loyal to him, to a fault, I would say. And then he threw Pence under the bus. In fact, here's a scary thing. When they are actually suspecting that some of the protesters who broke into Capitol building wanted to hang Mike Pence because he was a traitor. And people heard when they broke in, where's Pence? Where's Pence? And his family was there. And after this happened, Trump apparently did not call him to see if he was okay. So that's that would make me pretty upset too, if I were being honest. So, and Kevin followed up by 66 senators need to go against Trump. I don't know if that will happen. Yeah, I don't think that would happen either. And it's also probably unrealistic for it to happen at this point. Even Mitt Romney, who is clearly not a Trump supporter, said that it's probably not likely there'd be enough support in time to do the 25th or impeachment. And we probably just have to suck it up and deal with Trump for 14 more days, or however many more days it is. Jesus, name above all names, says Dems are just asking for more bad action by moving to impeach again. They have the presidency, the House, and the Senate. They should unite as Biden called for, right? Well, and that's why I think the Democrats won't particularly win very well in 2022. For 2 years, they have everything in their power. They might as well make the most of it. They've got all 3 branches. I do not disagree with the impeachment. I think this is an impeachable offense. Unlike the last time they impeached him, that wasn't quite so much, in my opinion. But here's the thing. They've got to start being nice. It's like, how is it that they've got control of all 3 and they're still acting like sore losers? Like it's not enough to have complete control? I don't know, man. I mean, that's just it. Look, there's a reason I'm an independent. I think they all have their problems. Okay, so Kenneth H. said, Trump said it was stolen because he talks the truth. We now have a banana republic government. Get ready for high taxes, social engineered by the socialist Marxists. Yeah, well, you know what? He said it was stolen, but I don't know if he speaks the truth. I mean, he said that he also said that he had like a ton of evidence that the election was rigged. And to date, none of that evidence has come to light. So look, if he has the evidence, great. I'm willing to listen. If not, well, then it's just words at that point. Jordan says, my mother and father both had COVID. Fortunately, both were very minor cases, and they are both fine now. Well, I am very happy to hear that your parents survived that. I'm sure it was not fun. Mark says, Pence will be running for president in 2024 and will win for sure. That is a possibility. I don't know if he can win. He'll probably try to run at the very least. We're just going to have to find out just how deep does the Trump love go. Like the 90 million people who voted for Trump, will some of them not vote for Pence because they think Pence is a traitor? It's possible. I think that's very counterproductive, but but I do think I'm actually pretty proud of Pence. I think he stepped up in the last hour. I mean, yeah, he was a little bit of a suck up for the longest time. I attribute that personally to being stuck with like a crummy boss and, or maybe not, well, I'm going to use my words carefully, but like, a boss that might have very high demands. Like sometimes you get a boss and you don't particularly want to work with that boss, but they are your boss and you got to do what they say, so you make the best of a bad situation. I think that's more what he was doing, but in the final days, he refused to bow to what Trump wanted. He said, "No, Mr. President, I cannot reject the Electoral College just because you want me to, and I will not do that." And he earned Trump's ire. Now, here's the interesting thing. People like my dad, who did not vote for Trump, might be more willing to give Pence a chance if he ran for president because of these actions. But some people who really like Trump and didn't want to see Biden get, well, here's the thing. Then those people might not vote for Pence. So I don't know. I don't know if Pence would win 2024, but I mean, he will probably at the very least run. Bob Oderdrive said, Antifa had a role. Dem should have stopped Antifa sooner last year. Well, in all fairness, Antifa is actually listed as a terrorist organization. I mean, and the Democrats have not publicly supported Antifa. They don't really publicly condemn them either. Although, interesting fact, Joe Biden has publicly condemned Antifa. So for those of you who were not aware of that, Biden considers Antifa a terrorist group. Rideshare source driver, welcome, said, a friend of mine just told me this happened in the White House. Wow, dude, you must not watch the news very much. Kevin Joseph says, I just feel like all the chaos from 2017 was to hurt Trump. He hasn't had a break from chaos. Well, I'm going to take a middle of the road approach. I don't disagree with you. I mean, even now when I'm watching like Joe Biden take questions from the press are clearly, absolutely clearly, much nicer to him than they are to Trump. With Trump, it was like, let's see if we can get the president riled up today. And they usually did just that. But here's the thing. Trump is still the president, and he can still be the bigger man. It doesn't matter if the whole world's against you, if the media doesn't like you. You can choose to respond in a way where the media looks foolish for asking the question rather than you look foolish for the way you answer it. So, do I believe the media had it out for him? Of course I do. Do I think he handled it well? Absolutely not. So, oh, hold on. Mark, we might have a news flash. Thank you, Mark. I'm gonna I gotta look this up real quick to see if it's true. Whoa. Yikes. So here's the news flash, folks. It's official. Donald Trump has been suspended from Twitter. I am on what used to be his Twitter account. Donald Trump has been suspended from Twitter. Okay, I gotta see what Twitter has to say about this. So let's see. So the Denver Post, Twitter suspends Donald Trump's account permanently. So Twitter says it is banning President Donald Trump from its platform, citing risk of further incitement of violence. The social media giant said Friday, after close review of recent tweets from the real Donald Trump account and the context around them, specifically how they're being received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Trump was locked out of his account, and no, I do not want to sign up for the Denver Post right now. Ugh. Of course. They I hate it. You know when you go to well, anyway, Trump posted so yeah, that's it. Trump has been suspended from Twitter. And by the way, thank you, Twitter is now currently trending on Twitter, so let's see what else is going on. Let's see here. Twitter added, given the renewed potential for violence surrounding this type of behavior in the coming days, we will permanently suspend accounts that are solely dedicated to sharing QAnon content. The company also said Trump attorney Lynn Wood was permanently suspended Twitter on Tuesday for violating its rules, but provided no additional details. On Friday, the Advocacy Coalition Stop Hate for Profit launched a campaign to pressure the major platforms, including YouTube owner Google, to kick Trump off their services for good. So here's the thing. I'm going to reiterate what I said this morning. I don't completely disagree with this. I think Trump is using Twitter to incite violence right now. However, there does become problems with that because Twitter says they are not a publisher, that they let people just go on their site and say what they say, and they can't be held responsible. Well, now Twitter seems to be taking a very active role in who can and can't post on Twitter during this time. So maybe they are a publisher at this point. I don't know. So that's kind of crazy. Now, rideshare source driver says, is this inside job that no one got arrested after what they did? Oh, no, people have been arrested. People have been arrested. One of the guy, his name was Randy. He was from Arkansas. He took a picture of himself on Nancy Pelosi's desk. He's been arrested, for example. Kevin Joseph says, go to the Finance Hug channel. There's video proof of election fraud committed in Rome, Italy. Finance Hub. Oh, I am not giving Finance Hub the time of day. That kid is ripping people off. I mean, hey, here, you want to know what I think of the Finance Hub? I think Geo, the American Gigolo, formerly known as Rideshare Revolution, he did a video on Rideshare Hub, and that was not pointless bullying. He did his research, and there was a reason he made that video. And I have to say, good on you, Geo, for calling that out. Do not watch the Finance Hub. That kid does not know what he's talking about. In fact, the funny thing is, Finance Hub is a registered Democrat. Seriously, look Dylan up. He's actually a registered Democrat. He's taking you for a ride. Anyway, rideshare source driver, do U.S. citizens overseas get to vote? If they are in the military, they do. Kenneth says, all the legislative hearings displayed tons of evidence. We never had our day in court. Not have standing doesn't mean no evidence. That's not entirely true, Kenneth. There was no evidence provided at the courts. That's why there was no court hearing. That is why. Because if they had evidence, it was apparently not very good evidence. And keep in mind, when it came to the Supreme Court, a few of those judges were Trump appointees. So anyway, Joshua Johnson said, Antifa still have all their Twitter and Facebook accounts. Well, that's because Antifa has a bunch of members, and when one account gets suspended, another one pops up. That's why. But they have been banned from Twitter and Facebook multiple times. Let's see here. Kevin says, Joseph says, Trump will probably invoke the Insurrection Act soon. You know, I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. But I wouldn't put it past him at this point. Let's see. Let's see here. Joshua Johnson, that's old news. They did that like over an hour ago. Well, I had just heard of it, so... by the way, there's 47 people here. If you like the video and you like the conversation, consider giving a thumbs up, please. That would be nice. So let's see here. Kenneth H. says, Pence is done. He is just a true politician. In those states that had dual electors, he could have sent those back for review. Yeah, but you know, you really don't feel like doing that when Trump supporters are storming the Capitol and threatening to hang you. So there you go. Amy McGrade said, Parler working for anyone? Mine keeps timing out. You know, just because I'm just going to look it up right now. I'm going to look at Parler. Because technically I do have an account there. I'll just see if I can actually log in. I can log in, just to let you know. So I'm using a Microsoft Surface. Rideshare Source says, I wish there was a president who could unite the states and the people. Yeah, well, that's a lot harder these days, unfortunately. And he's like, man, Geo hit 2,400 last week. That's usually what he hits, right? Talking about 2,400 subscribers or dollars, because I mean, if it's dollars, then you know he usually gets that. Jordan says, wait, does Rideshare Hub have a new channel called Finance Hubs, or are these different people? No, they're the same people. They're the same people. In fact, I'm going to go to, we'll just look up Finance Hub and I'll read you some of his, some of his videos. Like, some of it, his reason is like, breaking Jennifer Flynn, Sidney Powell, and Linwood banned from Twitter. Breaking new evidence from Rome, Italy release triggers big changes. Breaking: Trump addresses the nation. We are still fighting for more. He's pretty much telling the Trump supporters what they want to hear. That's wait. Is there Parler app on Apple? Because that's what this is about. If you miss the first 20 minutes, yeah, the Parler app might not be working on Apple for a little while. So yeah, no, this is a so yeah, it's the same. And the funny thing, again, Dylan's a registered Democrat. He's secretly very liberal. So there you go. Minecraft Nightlife says it's scary to think Trump has keys to the U.S. nukes, and that might be one of the reasons for invoking the 25th. Hey, Robin, how are you doing? Righteous Driver says, is it possible the last day of its presidency he can declare world war to show who was the boss? My dumb joke. Well, let's not joke like that. I'm not someone who's going to say, like, I've never feared that he was going to push the button, but, the last few days definitely has changed my opinion. I think the sooner he's gone, the better we'll be, personally. After he's gone, then we can worry about having a more balanced Senate and House in 2 years. My protest is my vote, as they say. So, let's see here. Clayton DePerna says, my Parler app not working. If it's on an Apple device, it might not work for a while. He says, I have an Android. The apps keep saying it times out. Well, maybe the app's just not working right now. Who knows? Whenever Parler comes in the news, they get like a huge surge of traffic, and I don't think they can really handle the traffic. James Jordan says, it's not like Trump is just going to start firing off random nukes. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I tend to agree. Plus, I even think the guy who holds the keys to the nukes, if Trump just said one day, hey, I'm just going to nuke New Jersey one day just for the heck of it, I mean, who are they to claim that they have the best coffee in the world? I think there's still some checks and balances there, but Rideshare Source Driver says, a friend of mine buys from eBay and says he doesn't want to feed Bezos. Well, good for him. Good for him. He's just got to be careful who he buys from on eBay, because Amazon does sell things on eBay under different users' names. So, it's hard to avoid them. Anyway, we've got 39 viewers. If anyone else wants to give a thumbs up, that's great. And let's see, we've been talking for almost 50 minutes. We're going to give ourselves 10 more minutes, more or less. So any final questions? Now's the time. Welcome to Keys Nation said, the right-wing media is the most dangerous media in America. Well, here's the thing. I think the far right media is the most dangerous media in the world. And the far left media is also the most dangerous media in the world. Any media, we're talking about the Newsmax and the Young Turks, the ones who actually call for call to action. People are gonna have to take a look at them and really look hard at these news stations and say, do we really want people bringing the news to people who are encouraging people to pick up their pitchforks and join a mob and storm the White House? I think we're gonna have to think about that. Rideshare Source Driver says, I cannot believe this anarchy here. 21 centuries in USA, most modern country. Yeah. Well, you know what? Everyone's allowed to have a bad day. Do I think this is the end of democracy? No. No. I think, in fact, if anything, this might in the long term be a good thing, because it wakes some people up to just how much we're not talking, and we need to fix these problems. Unless we want to become a third world country, we will do something about this. But yeah, we had a bad day, and going forward, we just have to have better days. Let's see. Repair your PC. Oh, sorry. I skipped. Kenneth says, they're squashing the little guy out like a cigarette on the payment. I assume you're talking about Amazon, and I agree. I actually dislike Amazon more than I dislike Uber. So whatever that's worth. Repair Your PC, who used to be RBX177, said, late to live, change account name from... Well, welcome to the chat. Even if you're late, I'm glad you're here. And Rideshare Source Driver says, the news are 77% commercials. Well, yeah, that's live TV in general. It is true the news is probably more commercial than it is news. Even when they're doing the news, they've got ads surrounding the images and everything. So, kind of the same way with ESPN. They're always showing, the sports stats, even though there's nothing to talk about at the moment. So, sorry. I wish I had water with me. I didn't think we'd be talking so long, but you know. Welcome to Kane says Trump was just a mistake America put in the presidency. Well, okay, actually, so first of all, Mark says the last 4 years is a good argument for term limits. Well, we do have term limits for the president, but in terms of Congress and everything, yeah, I agree. I think maybe in 2 terms is too short, but like maybe 4 terms, then yeah, I think so. Welcome to Kane's Nation. Trump was just a mistake America put into the presidency. Well, one of the things that I tell people, because some people say, like, how could we have ever voted for Trump? It's like, well, look at his competition. I mean, Hillary had that famous, like, when they asked about Republicans who might not vote for it, she said, well, they belong in the basket of deplorables And it's like, you basically just told half the country you didn't care about them. And so people reacted by voting for Trump. Like, they wanted something different. And they certainly got it. But I do think that, and look, what Trump did, politically speaking, he's not the most egregious president. He's not even close. But he does have a rhetoric that is very dangerous, and we saw exactly what it led to. And by the way, you're right. It's not just him. The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes of the world, they're just as bad. I mean, she's being praised by the media because they agree with her, but make no mistake, she's going to have that day when she says something and it's going to get her supporters to do something stupid, and then we're going to be having this conversation again. I think going forward, 2 new rules need to be put in place. 2 new rules that make sense, in my opinion. First rule, if you are an elected public official, you need to hire someone to handle your social media accounts. So anything you want to say on social media, send it to your handler, and the handler will read it, proof it, run it through lawyers if need be to see if this is okay for an elected official to say, and then they will choose whether they're going to say it or not. The second thing is, if you are an elected public official, you cannot be saying things like this, or else there will be sanctions put on you. And if you continue to do this stuff, even after the sanctions are put on, guess what? You will, we will, here's the thing, probably remove you from office. So I think going forward, those might be good rules to have. Joshua Johnson says, the problem is Trump, he burns a lot of bridges and talks too much. I agree with his politics, but I don't agree with his childish behavior. That's kind of the boat that I find myself in. And the fact that he wasn't willing to negotiate, he considered himself like a master diplomat or like a master negotiator. It's like, he really isn't. I mean, he's good, but he's not great. And a president really should be... So Jordan sent me an interesting question. I'm going to answer that right now. So are you suggesting elected officials should not have freedom of speech? Censorship is a slippery... So, no, I am not saying they should not have freedom of speech. I mean, what I am saying is, as elected officials, they cannot call for violence. Period. I mean, actually, it's against the law to call for violence, so we'd essentially be enforcing a law that's already on the books. So as for the Twitter handler thing, that's just common sense. If you're a famous person of any stature, you hire a Twitter handler because one dumb tweet can cost you your career. Just ask Roseanne Barr. So let's see here. Kenneth H. says, I am a Trumper, not a Republican. We need a third party. We don't need censorship. Well, I agree that we need a third party. But just because I don't believe in censorship doesn't mean I agree with someone, walking into like a crowded room and yelling fire either. So, welcome to Kane's Nation says, I gotta tell you, I live in New York City and we actually like AOC. I know you do, but I mean, geez, if you think Trump is dangerous, she's just as dangerous. She's the liberal version of Trump. And if you don't believe me, wait a few years, keep what I said in mind, and you'll see eventually. Mark says, we will have a female president before the next 4 years are over. Probably. Right, Charles Driver says, just asking, is this Is this right? There are many companies and construction workers who work in the past for the president in his real estates, and they were never paid large amounts of money. I don't know, but I hear that the Trump businesses have a really appalling history of not paying their employees. So, Lucky W says, "Isn't that illegal if Twitter and Apple are in communication about shutting down Parler? Twitter is not in communication with shutting down Parler. Twitter is competition. Apple does not like the fact that Parler is not monitoring what people are posting. Now, granted, Twitter isn't doing a very good job at monitoring what they're posting, but Twitter's pretty popular. So, yeah, there's probably a double standard there, but what can you do?" Righteous, do you consider the president for the splinter and we are I actually get that. I got that joke. That's awesome. Anyway, I think there's a debate on whether or not Biden will last 4 years. Who knows? Who knows? But Lucky W said, "Not sure how anyone could agree with this censorship." Well, it's because here's the thing. These are calls to violence, and that is illegal. So, like, let's put it this way. If we were talking, and I'm not saying this obviously didn't happen, but what if, say, Donald Trump was giving advice to old men on picking up teenage girls? Would Twitter removing those posts be censorship, or would it be following Megan's Law? Something to keep in mind. Anyway, do you think Trump should be held accountable for what happened yesterday? Yes, I do. Kenneth says, Kamala Harris will be president soon. Identity politics to the extreme. Well, she might be president soon because Biden's really old. And I think we're going to wrap this one up with these last two comments because it's been almost an hour and my throat's getting dry and I just need to get something to drink. But thank you all for having this conversation. And here's the thing. Here's what I like the most about this because, well, Robin, let me say that thing about Italy. If you got that information from the Finance Hub, double, triple, quadruple check the sources because that guy does not post factual stuff. Anyway, I'm glad that overall, though, we can have a conversation about this. We can disagree with it, and we give each other days in court. Now, I know that I technically get the last word because, I'm the host of this whole thing, but, I'm still giving people a chance. I'm just saying what I think, but we're not calling anyone names or anything, and I like that. So, anyway, I am Lynn Wood. Who is Lynn Wood? Let me look up Lynn Wood real quick. Lynn Wood was Lynn Wood, pro-Trump lawyer, permanently banned from Twitter. Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell are to be disbarred from Detroit. Oh my gosh. I've heard of this guy. Like, this is the guy who represented Richard Jewell. Wow. Oh, it's a shame to hear this. Apparently he went a little crazy and now he became a conspiracy theorist. Granted, you know what? I guess, you know what? But here's the thing about Lynn Wood. I'm just going to say this. He defended Richard Jewell and John Bennett Ramsey. I mean, if I was living those situations and that was definitely the government stacked against one guy and a public outcry against John Bennett Ramsey. I mean, wow. Yeah, if I represent those people, then shoot, maybe I'd be a conspiracy theorist too. I don't know, but apparently he's about to be disbarred because of his conspiracy theories. And that's a shame because he did some good things for those people. So anyway, yeah. So I don't know if Lynn Wood knows the whole truth, though. I mean, but I haven't seen like what is he saying? Yeah, because I know that this stuff that this evidence that he presented, you know, he showed this evidence and apparently it really wasn't anything. So anyway, that could be a whole nother thing, but it's definitely a shame that, you know, he went off the deep end. But anyway, I'll have to look up more into that. But even just like a brief glance, it's like something, this is not like really, I don't know. Anyway, folks, again, thank you for spending time with me. This was fun. I'm probably going to edit out that little Twitter comment and make it its own little video on Monday, because Monday I might be relaxing. We're really doing a lot of stuff. If you're a Patreon member, there's going to be an exclusive video on Sunday night, though, so, you know, keep an eye out for that. In other words, we will be back to business as usual on Wednesday with some new announcements for the channel. So anyway, take care, everyone. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.